Mike Wayne, or John Wayne, or Bruce Wayne, or we'll go with Mike.
My middle name is John.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
All right. Mike, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Good to meet you, Sean.
Good to see you here in Las Vegas. Good energy at Black Hat this week?
Great energy.
Yeah?
Yep, lots going on. A lot of people here.
There's a lot of people.
A lot of good discussions.
I was just going to ask that. Just going to ask good discussions. Now, we were talking a little bit before we started. I didn't tell you this, but what you guys do is like how I think.
Okay.
I like, and Marco gets mad at me because I like to look at everything and figure out how to find the best workflow and orchestrate things for the best experience possible, in the most efficient way, the most effective way to drive an outcome for what we're trying to accomplish. And business workflows are difficult. Throw security in there, it's even more difficult. The security teams struggle with kind of orchestrating and organizing things. And you guys, which we're going to get into, help with that. So rather than me butchering what you do, I'm gonna get to let you do that. But I want to maybe a few words about your role at BlinkOps and maybe a brief history of the company and its origins.
Sure, well, you're speaking my language when you talk about automation, so thank you for teeing me up there. But yeah, my name's Mike Wayne. I'm responsible for our global sales here at BlinkOps. Been with the team about 3 months, so if I butcher some things, it's okay. We can blame it on that. But spent some time at Google, spent some time at Salesforce, spent some time at some different companies, so on the business side as well as on the security side.
Okay.
And as far as BlinkOps, yeah, we are an agentic security automation tool, capability, platform. And what's interesting about us is how we're approaching the agent world right now, which is changing so fast. And I think there's some really interesting things happening right now, especially with all the conversations that we're having here on how others are approaching this as well. And so that discussion has really been top of mind, not just automating and being more efficient, which is what we focus on, but also how we're taking advantage of the technologies that are now being used. And there's even mandates for these companies to take advantage of AI. How are they going to do that? And BlinkOps is a great way to do that. And we can get into some details as well on why we think we're a little bit different and special.
Okay, and I will get there. I want, if you can kind of describe the state of the union for AI in organizations. I know we're going to talk about agents and micro agents even.
We can do that.
What are organizations thinking about as they're approaching this new world where everything is driven by, or can be driven by AI at some level?
Yeah, I would say there's a couple things. One, there are very high expectations because we've seen productivity gains in our personal lives. We've seen what's happening in businesses, and there's really a mandate to kind of take advantage of this technology so that we're not just lowering the costs from the bottom line, making it more efficient to do the work of these companies, but also potentially increasing top line revenue, even in the security world, which is hard to talk about, but if we can make people more productive and be able to do more with less, which we hear about a lot, but I think AI really gives us that ability. Now we are addressing things like helping companies go to market faster, as well as delivering the security goals that we have. And we'll get to that horizontal approach that BlinkOps has in a little bit, but focusing on security is definitely a discussion here, but how do you take advantage of it? And I think that's what we're here to have that discussion about, because there's multiple places that people are interested in, but that mandate is what we're really focusing on. And if it's not AI, a lot of companies aren't spending any money on it.
Right. So you mentioned the horizontal, and I actually want to go there first, because I think it sets the mindset for what I think you as an organization are doing to help your customers achieve new things. We're going to talk about the security operations and security programs and the role you play there, but you're much broader than that. It's like HR and finance and all kinds of things you have a role in. Maybe kind of paint that picture for us, and maybe a scenario or two that everybody might be able to understand because it's just general business.
Yeah, I think it comes down to a little bit, it's going to sound strange maybe, just coming from the architecture of how we built this. Like our mission as a company is to focus in on security, solve a lot of security problems, issues, toil, the things that are happening in the Security Operations Center, but also going broad to the rest of the organization, just like you said, because we can apply the platform to specific use cases across the organization. That's the interesting thing. So starting in security is a big focus, but then moving out. So you're exactly right. So we have customers that have use cases in HR. Think about onboarding, offboarding of employees, making sure they have don't have privileged access to things that they shouldn't have privileged access to, automating that entire process. We just got out of a meeting a few minutes ago about exactly this. That's HR. And the idea here, because we have time to automation as a key metric for us, we want to make this easy for anybody to build automations, whether you're in HR, whether you know how to write Python, and everybody in between. That's our focus. So it could be sales, could be finance, could be marketing. Any of those groups can take advantage. In fact, to the point where some of our customers even say, just go blink it. So if we're going to be a verb, I'll take that.
Right? And
yeah.
That could be cool.
It could be cool.
And so, I'm stumped with the go blink it thing. So let's talk about some scenario. Let's go to the security area, because what we were talking about earlier is this idea that you can go in and find in something that has to be done A to Z. There are points in there where humans are involved, maybe they don't need to be involved, or maybe machines are involved and some optimization needs to be put in place. How do you identify that? Customers identifying that themselves? Are you helping them?
That's a really great question. In fact, we just had a meeting here that I can talk about a little bit. I won't name any names, but a couple things. So on one hand, if you think about automation and maybe the traditional solutions in security, things like SOAR, you have to build and maintain a lot of that. You have to know how to script. You have to know how to maybe shut automations down as your business changes. It's a lot of work by humans. And so you can build code in BlinkOps if you want to do that, if you can do drag and drop, but our first sort of LLM approach, an agentic approach, is our security copilot, which you just tell it in natural language, what do you want to automate, and it will build that automation for you, like 90% good. You can tweak it and integrate as you need to. But that's sort of the first piece. The second piece is when we talk to customers, we start to ask them a little bit about, we do some discovery, we understand we are in sales, we need to find out those problems so we can solve for outcomes. We just came out of a meeting where we said, hey, what type of automations or manual tasks are painful for you? Let's build an AI agent right now in this room together in your environment and do that within a few minutes. And we had that done. This happened to be a very specific use case, but it had to do with access level that employees have and having to go check that and making sure those things are shut down as employees go from one department to another.
Right.
These are very specific things, but to be able to point an agent at that can reason across what they need to do and bring the context of why that person may be moving around in the business, now we know what's going on there and we can take that agent's, put a human in the loop if we want to do that, which most companies are going to want to do,
for now,
especially if it's a destructive use case.
Right.
Or an outcome is destructive. You don't want to do that right now. But I think we're going to get more and more comfortable as we start to build these agents and control them with the abilities that BlinkOps has built into the platform. So, and we can talk a little bit about micro agents in a bit.
I was just going to go there because I think I come from an engineering background, and like shared services is the holy grail, right?
Yeah.
Where everybody's building a bunch of things and you pull it all together and you use them in different ways, and this department can use it that way and this department can. But we're giving that capability to people who don't code.
Yes.
And people who run business, and they want to, and specifically we're talking about security now, where yes, you might have analysts that are engineers. Not everyone can code. And if someone does code, you want to be able to use it in multiple ways. So maybe let's talk about micro agents, let's talk about reuse, let's talk about code, low code, no code, and how that's impacting security teams, the automations they're trying to do.
Yeah, I think so. If you look at horizontal, maybe outside of security, we could call them, citizen developers, if you will.
Right.
And hopefully everybody's tried vibe coding. I've done it myself.
I was at Legal Week a few weeks back, and all the layers of vibe coding.
That's right, and we should be taking advantage of this. Whatever platform it is, it helps us sort of think through how we can be more effective as, employees and delivering value. And so our expectation is the future. From a vibe coding perspective, the HR person will understand what type of workflow they need, and they should be able to describe that in natural language. And then it's our job as a platform to take that through our LLMs and so forth and our models to deliver that solution to the business and put it into production. So I don't know if that answers.
It does.
I can talk about micro agents too and why that's different.
Yeah, maybe I think that's the way we get it done. So let's talk about what it is we're getting done, because what security processes are right for automation? And are they, because I've done some stuff with forms where you can kind of naturally say, here's what I want to do, and here's the outcome I want to achieve, and you get a form out of it. Sometimes you get a document as a result, or you create a web page, or you create a PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Different ways to do something and you get a different outcome. So what are some of the...
A perfect example, a very easy, simple security use case that I think most people in security would understand is that typically you get an alert. That alert comes into a system like a SIEM. Then maybe it needs to be enriched. Maybe you need to find out exactly what's going on there, add some context, and determine whether it's critical. If it's critical, then you need to do more research. This can take minutes to hours. If it's big, it could take days.
Right.
And so as a use case, you can imagine the different systems you need to hit, where are those alerts coming from, what data do you need to enrich with. All of that is sort of happening auto-magically, if you will. If you would apply an agent, in this case, one of our agents that our customers build is called our enrichment agent. They do it. So that's something that, by the way, this is an approach we have. We're not interested in building this perfect agent for a customer because we don't know what their complex needs are. We want to enable them to build these very fast when they have these types of use cases. So an enrichment agent is a perfect example. Instead of having a human go and build all this information around these observables and IOCs, now what they can do is say, hey, I'm going to point enrichment agent Bob at this problem, embed Bob into that workflow, and now you've got an agent doing that for you. It's a huge, that can take a long time for a human. This saves a lot of time and money.
Now, is this workflow you're describing there, is it interactive where, because the enrichment, I'm assuming, gives some feedback and perhaps maybe even prompts the user to say, is this good or bad, or what, any additional context you want to add, and then the user can also ask?
So it's important, yes, and the answer is yes. Okay. It's important to understand kind of the high level differences between generative AI and agentic AI, right? Generative AI is you ask a question, you get a response, whereas agentic AI is I now have an entity actually executing a task. And you're right, if their task results in XYZ, it may trigger it to go ask more questions or do more things or bring it through a loop. And that's why fitting these agents into a workflow makes so much sense.
Yeah. So you're not doing all aspects of the workflow, you're giving the agentic piece in those workflows.
And it could be multiple micro agents in that workflow to do different things. Experts on enrichment or reverse engineering or whatever the thing is that they need to do.
So what do organizations need to know to do this? Clearly a view of their security program or the areas they want to have efficiencies. They don't need to necessarily code, but do they have to have some other knowledge of how agents work? And do they have to train anything? Do they have to set up an environment that maybe they don't have in place yet?
It's a great question. What we're hearing from our customers is that they're kind of dubbing this is what they say about our approach, is it's approachable AI. So one of the things you want to be careful about is if you have a very large agent or you create something with a very large model, I'm coming back to micro agents, that model can hallucinate. So you have to be careful. It's possible that an agent goes rogue and does something you don't want it to do. And that is why our approach, having a smaller context window for LLMs, to minimize that hallucination, to maximize the value and have the customer be able to build 10 agents or 10,000. And it's a swarm of these very specific focused agents that are controlled by their abilities, which are delivered by the automation platform. Okay. That is a departure from, hey, I'm going to go ask ChatGPT a question because it has all the knowledge in the world, somebody said today, all the works of Shakespeare. That's not useful when I'm doing some enrichment and a ticket, right?
Hurtful.
Probably hurtful, and it might hallucinate because of that. The agents do want to please, so you have to be a little bit careful around that.
So, I was going to ask, so in terms of fit, I presume you're in the cloud, so this is something they run in the cloud, or is it an on-prem and a web app, or what's that look like?
Yeah, I can answer that. So it's actually a really great question. We run as a SaaS model, kind of option one. We also run as a hybrid model, so you can imagine our target focus are larger organizations with complex problems that we can solve in a simple way. we can run in a hybrid model where we can actually deploy what we call runners into their environment that will then interact as automations are happening with on-prem applications, things like that. And then the third option is we can deploy into like, a GovCloud type environment if are requirements that are needed to be in like a GCC High or a FedRAMP environment, something like that, where we can be fully in that environment that is then controlled by the customer.
Very cool. So what are some of the outcomes you've seen in three months? So you probably one fresh and new, but also drinking from a fire hose. So I'm sure you've heard some things, but what are some common outcomes?
Yeah,
like faster time to respond?
Yeah, so MTTR, those types of things we talk about a lot. Time to automation is a big one for us because if there's a 0 day, which we all have dealt with 0 days, the amount of time it can take for traditional SOAR and things like that to automate might take days, weeks, months,
right.
Whereas every hour that goes by that you're not automated in that 0 day, which you have exposure to potentially, you're exposing yourself to a potential bad situation. Okay. So our goal is to decrease that time to automation so that as soon as the 0 day comes out and we learn about it, okay, this is what we need to do, let's build that out very, very quickly using our agentic capability. But you did ask another question around what are some outcomes that customers might have. So two things, and this is recency bias because I'm talking to people now. So one is we just had a customer deploy a triage agent that's triaging sort of tier 1 alerts coming into a SOC, and over 8 days it triaged 400 alerts all on its own. No human involved. So very, very interesting. Now, if the human needs to be involved, it's part of the process, but that's something that's pretty amazing, right?
That's cool.
400 alerts that can be a lot of time when we want those humans focused on some other things, right? The other one that's really interesting that comes to mind is that one of our customers was doing and this is a totally different use case. We have an automation platform. It can be used to deploy or extract things from endpoints, really interesting things. We had a customer who was deploying an endpoint technology. They came back to us and said over 30 days they sold saved $1.8 million of manual costs that they knew they were going to have hit them. Can't get the words out. So once they realized that, they could take that $1.8 million, you talk about bottom line efficiencies, and deploy that on other things. And it doesn't get much better when you hear a customer that has saved that kind of money over that short amount of time.
Reinvested in other things.
Exactly.
Expand the business.
That's right. Take advantage of AI. With more BlinkOps.
Blink it.
Why not? Just blink it.
I want to ask you this last question.
Yeah, sure.
And then if there's anything else we didn't cover, we can cover that as well. But have you uncovered any scenarios where the process was so manual that it didn't make any sense to build, but with the automation, the ability to explore and innovate without having to build a bunch of stuff, you can just kind of orchestrate something?
Yeah,
I have a big question.
I have bias. I think a lot, at least a portion of those types of manual, human-based workflows, if you will, can be automated to an extent. I think you have to be careful on what you decide to automate, what needs to have a human in the loop, and really be smart about that. Right. There's going to be a combination, right? Just like what we have up here, we have all the robots. There's humans in there too, right? And we need to think about what should humans be focused on, what should the agents be focused on, and that's where we engage with customers and have those types of discussions. And it's amazing what comes out of it.
I love it. Mike, amazing chat.
Good to meet you, Sean.
I want to get in there and play.
All right.
I like this stuff. So.
Let's demo. Hey, by the way,
I want to play.
I'm a citizen developer. So are you.
I am.
We can both demo.
You have no idea. You have no idea the stuff I play with. Anyway.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure meeting you.
Pleasure.
Appreciate it. If you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did, connect with Mike, the BlinkOps team, and I'll just say it, just blink it. And thanks everybody for listening, watching. Do connect with the team. Follow all of our coverage, ITSPmagazine.com/BHUSA25, and we'll see you all soon.